My girlfriend, Clara, transformed what was meant to be our engagement party into a birthday celebration for my brother, Julian. She even had him wear the suit I had custom made for the occasion and pose for photos with his hand around her waist. At the party, she rationalized it by saying we could get engaged whenever we wanted, but Julian's birthday only comes once a year. Yet, when the other guests started commenting on what a perfect couple they made, Clara just offered a quiet, knowing smile. Later, she would try to recreate this day, staging an elaborate proposal where she got down on one knee and begged me to marry her. "Leo, let's get married, okay?" But it wasn't okay. Not anymore. Julian's birthday party was a lavish affair. All our friends and family, from both sides, were in attendance. He stood on the stage delivering a heartfelt speech, his voice thick with emotion as he recounted his years abroad. Clara was right there beside him, looking up at him with a tenderness I hadn't seen in a long time, gently dabbing at his tears with a handkerchief to soothe him. The entire scene felt less like a birthday celebration and more like a wedding reception, with the bride and groom sharing their vows. "Leo, what in the world is going on? Isn't this supposed to be your engagement party with Clara?" My best friend Sam demanded as he stormed into my dance studio, having just seen the live stream of the event. "And isn't this the exact hotel and setup you showed me the plans for?" I had just finished a grueling practice session and was stretching in front of the large studio mirror. Without turning to face him, I replied calmly, "The engagement is off." "What? Why?" Sam was clearly floored. He took a moment, studying my indifferent reflection in the mirror before the pieces started to click into place. "Don't tell me this has something to do with Julian, does it?" "Yes," I answered simply. 3 months prior, my younger brother, Julian, had returned home after finishing his studies overseas. He arrived right in the middle of Clara and I finalizing the details for our engagement. I had already booked the hotel, set the date, and meticulously planned every single detail. Then, just a week before the event, Julian mentioned that his birthday was approaching. He expressed a desire to throw a big party to reconnect with all the old friends he hadn't seen since he left home 6 years ago. My parents, who had always doted on him, enthusiastically agreed. They insisted it had to be a grand and luxurious event. The problem, of course, was the timing. With only a week until my engagement party, organizing another large-scale event seemed completely unfeasible. Julian wore a frown of disappointment, and my parents, noticing his unhappiness and the logistical crunch, exchanged worried glances. "What should we do?" Julian mused aloud, a thoughtful expression on his face. "Didn't Leo already book a beautiful hotel? I saw the design proposal they sent him today. I really like it. How about we just use that venue instead?" My parents were hesitant at first, reminding him that it was reserved for my engagement to Clara. But Julian pleaded with them, his voice laced with manufactured innocence. "I'm just having a birthday party. It won't interfere with anything. Besides, using Leo's arrangement will save everyone a lot of time and effort." Julian had always been the golden child, the center of our family's universe. The slightest hint of his unhappiness caused my parents genuine distress. So when he framed his request as a way to lessen their burden, they were touched. They immediately agreed, completely forgetting the months of careful planning I had poured into what was supposed to be one of the most important days of my life. Sam was rendered speechless after I finished my explanation. "That's insane. He's competing with you for your own engagement venue? It's not like he won't have another birthday next year." Sam's anger on my behalf was palpable. "What about Clara? Did she just go along with this?" Clara. I paused for a moment, the thought of her bringing a familiar, dull ache to my chest. Sam gave me a questioning look. "This is your engagement, man. Surely that's more important than Julian's birthday, right?" "You saw the live stream," I replied, my voice flat. Sam fell silent again. his face a mixture of pity and concern. I had seen this coming from a mile away. Thankfully, I'd had plenty of time to process the heartbreak, and by now, I was mostly numb to it. I managed a reassuring smile for Sam's sake, but it only seemed to make him more worried. "Well, it's fine," he said, trying clumsily to offer some comfort. "She'll make it up to you. She'll plan an even better engagement party for you." In the past, I might have clung to that hope, but now I knew better. In the future, there probably wouldn't be a future for Clara and me. Sam didn't understand the full picture. He didn't know that in my family, Julian was treated like a prince from a fairy tale, and everyone, including Clara, catered to his every whim. She knew how much effort I had invested in our engagement, how much I was looking forward to it, and yet for Julian's sake she joined my parents in persuading me to give it up. I hadn't been silent. We had argued about it. But Clara's final argument was always the same. "We can get engaged any time, Leo, but Julian's birthday only happens once a year, and he hasn't been home in 6 years. Can't we just give him this one birthday?" It wasn't about him having a birthday. It was about why it had to be on our engagement day, at the venue I had chosen. 100 questions swirled in my mind, but they all died on my lips when I saw the displeased frown on Clara's face. She was different with Julian. She never refused any of his requests. Back in high school, it was helping him with his homework, tutoring him, or keeping him company on weekends. I had always assumed she would eventually learn to draw a line, but when it came to this, she agreed without a second thought. After turning off the lights at the dance studio, I decided to head to the party. It was still in full swing when I arrived, the ballroom teeming with people. Julian was at the center of a laughing crowd, a champagne glass in his hand. I recognized many of the faces. A few were even our old classmates from high school. But they were Julian's friends, and by extension, Clara's. I was just an acquaintance. Julian had only grown more handsome over the years. "Mia, you're just teasing me," he said with a shy smile to one of our former classmates. "I'm being serious. You and Clara look so good together. You're a perfect match," Mia insisted. Julian's shy smile widened just as Clara walked over to their group. "What are you all talking about?" she asked. Julian smoothly linked his arm with hers, his expression one of pure innocence. "Perfect timing, Clara. They were just saying that we look great together." Mia waved her hand dismissively. "It's not just me. When you two were on stage giving your speeches, everyone around me was saying it. They said you look like a couple straight out of a storybook." Her exaggerated tone made everyone laugh. Julian covered his mouth, trying to stifle his giggles. Clara wasn't laughing as hard, but I could see a distinct softness in her eyes as she looked at him. Witnessing that small, intimate moment stung more than I cared to admit. Then, someone spotted me. "Hey, Leo's here!" The shout drew everyone's attention, including Clara's, and pulled me back to the present. As I looked up, my eyes met hers. She seemed startled to see me, and the gentle expression she'd had moments before instantly vanished, replaced by shock. She reflexively dropped Julian's arm and hurried over to me. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her tone making it sound as if I were an intruder. I just stared at her, and she must have realized how her question sounded. She quickly took my hand, her voice softening. "I mean, why didn't you call me? I would have picked you up." It was a polite sentiment, one I never thought I'd hear from her, but it felt hollow. If she genuinely cared, why would she have put me in this position in the first place? "It would have been too much trouble. I just took a cab," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. Clara forced a small smile. "It's no trouble at all to pick you up. Don't worry about it." She didn't seem to notice the emotional distance in my words. I decided to drop the subject. Just then, Julian strolled over. "You made it." Unlike Clara's flustered reaction, he was completely at ease. My eyes were immediately drawn to the suit he was wearing. It was the elegant, dark gray suit I had picked out to wear for the toast at my own engagement party. I never expected to see it on him. Noticing where my gaze had landed, Julian smirked. "Nice suit, isn't it?" I could see the challenge and a flicker of pride in his eyes. Before I could respond, Clara jumped in. "Julian's suit wasn't ready in time, so don't get the wrong idea." "There's no need to misunderstand anything," I replied with a calm smile. "It looks good on you. It suits you. I've been so busy with rehearsals that I didn't have time to get you a birthday present. Consider it a gift." Julian looked slightly taken aback by my lack of anger. Clara, however, seemed relieved. "Leo will just have a better one made later," she added, as if to smooth things over. I wasn't taking her comment seriously, but I saw Julian's expression shift slightly. I gently pulled my hand from Clara's grasp. "I'm going to go say hello to Mom and Dad." "I'll come with you," she said, following me. My parents were in the hotel's private lounge, looking through a digital album of photos from the evening. "Oh, these pictures came out so well," my mother said, pointing to a group photo on the screen. It was a picture of the four of them: Clara, Julian, and my parents. She gazed at it with deep satisfaction. "Look, Felix and Clara, they make such a wonderful pair, don't they?" Hearing this, my father leaned in for a closer look. "Yes, they do," he agreed. "But Clara and Leo are the ones who are actually a couple." "So what?" my mother retorted with a dismissive wave. "If Julian hadn't gone abroad to study, Leo wouldn't have even had a chance." My father didn't argue, just nodded in agreement. "Clara was always meant for Julian," my mother mused. "If only she had ended up with him, everything would be perfect." Those words stopped me in my tracks. Clara was right behind me and had heard every word. Her face paled, and she shot me a quick, panicked glance before calling out loudly, "Hey, Leo's back!" My parents turned, startled. "Oh, Leo, what are you doing here?" They looked visibly uncomfortable, clearly guessing that I had overheard their conversation. "It's Julian's birthday," I said. "I thought I'd stop by." "Oh," my mother mumbled, avoiding my gaze. That pretty much summed up our relationship. We hadn't been particularly close growing up, so there was little to say, especially after what I'd just heard. Leaving felt like the best option. I didn't stay long, just said a brief goodbye and headed for the exit. Before I could leave, Clara grabbed my hand. "I'll go with you," she said, her voice tinged with embarrassment. She was about to walk out with me when Julian's voice called out from behind us. "Clara, you're leaving already. We haven't even cut the cake yet." He frowned, putting on a show of disappointment. "You ordered my favorite cake. Aren't you going to stay and have a piece?" Clara's hand, which was holding mine, tensed. Seeing her dilemma, Julian finally acknowledged me. "You just got here, Leo. You should stay for the cake, too." "No, you guys go ahead," I said. In that moment, I could see Clara's true priorities laid bare. I made an excuse about being exhausted from rehearsals and left. As I walked out, I glanced back one last time. A crowd had gathered around a large table on the lawn. In the center, Clara and Julian stood side by side, their hands together on the knife, cutting into a massive birthday cake. The scene wasn't entirely unfamiliar. My mother had been right about one thing tonight. If Julian had never left the country, there never would have been a Clara and me. I liked Clara, but my mother had always hoped that Clara would end up with Julian, because she wanted her favorite son to have the best of everything the world had to offer. I remember when we were children, my mother managed to get 2 limited edition action figures. Logically, one should have been for me, and one for Julian. But he wanted both. He clutched the boxes to his chest and started crying loudly. "No! They're both mine! I want both of them!" My mother, heartbroken by his tears, scooped him up off the floor. Okay, they're all Julian's. He immediately brightened up and hugged her neck. Mommy, I love you the most. Mommy loves Julian the most too, she cooed, and I want you to have every good thing in this world. It was a small incident, but it defined our childhoods. My mother even held me back a year in school because she was worried about Julian being alone. You need to take good care of your little brother, was a phrase I heard from kindergarten all the way through high school. Then, when Clara entered our lives, the phrase changed. Please look after our Julian, will you? Clara was the epitome of a golden child, beautiful, intelligent, and from a wealthy family. My mother had a saying, you have to secure a great person when you find one. Since Clara was so exceptional, my mother was determined to set her up with Julian from an early age. The moment our college entrance exam results were out, and my mother found out which university Clara had chosen, she altered both my and Julian's applications to match hers. Her plan was for me to continue looking out for Julian, and for Julian to grow and mature alongside Clara. But Julian didn't get accepted. He refused to attend a different university and decided to repeat the year. During that year, he did a complete turnaround and announced he wanted to study abroad. My parents were vehemently against it at first, but Julian threw his usual tantrums, and they eventually relented, using a significant portion of the family's resources to send him overseas. So I went to college by myself. At first, my mother expressed a hint of pity. Oh well, maybe Julian and Clara just weren't meant to be. But when she saw Clara and me start dating, her expression grew heavy and clouded. It was as if I had stolen something that rightfully belonged to Julian. Clara came home late that night. I was still awake, scrolling aimlessly on my tablet. She seemed a bit surprised to find me up. You're back? I said, powering off the device. She nodded, looking as if she wanted to say something. Go take a shower first, I nudged. And be quiet, I need to get some rest. After her shower, she slipped into bed beside me, wrapping a warm arm around my waist. Her voice was thick with emotion when she finally spoke. Leo, she began, hesitating. I waited in silence. Don't be upset about what happened tonight, she finally whispered. What happened? I asked calmly. Was she referring to the fact that our engagement party had become Julian's birthday bash? That Julian was wearing my engagement suit? That she remembered every detail of Julian's party, but forgot to pick me up from my studio? Or was it about what my parents had said? If you're talking about the engagement party turning into a birthday party, we already discussed this, I reminded her. Clara opened her mouth to say something, but seemed to sense the strange new distance in my mood. My calm acceptance left her at a loss. If I had thrown a tantrum or broken down in tears, she would have known how to handle it. But this placid resignation was something she had wanted, yet it left her feeling frustrated and confused. I know you're upset, Leo, she said after a long pause, holding me tighter. I promise I will give you a bigger, grander wedding. The best wedding anyone has ever seen. She was waiting for a response, any response. Get some sleep, was all I said. The next day, likely out of guilt, Clara started sending massive bouquets of flowers to the dance academy. The other students, who didn't know the whole story, gasped and laughed at the romantic gesture. Only Sam was unimpressed. Where was all this energy before the party? He grumbled, seemingly more upset with Clara than I was. It was a reaction that was both amusing and exasperating. Just then, the dean's assistant came by and handed me some application forms. Sam noticed them and asked, "What are those?" "Application forms," I replied. "For what?" "The academy has a slot for an overseas study program. I told the dean I was interested." Sam was shocked. He snatched the forms from my hand. "This is a 3-year program. Does Clara know about this?" "She will soon," I said. I had no intention of hiding my plans from her. Now that I had the forms in hand, it was time to have that conversation. I drove directly to Clara's office building. The receptionist recognized me and directed me straight to the CEO's private elevator. As the doors slid open on her floor, I heard Julian's voice. "Clara, the view from up here is incredible," he was marveling, looking out the floor-to-ceiling windows at the sprawling cityscape below. Clara stood beside him, a fond, nurturing smile on her face. "Are you looking for a job? I actually do need a new personal secretary. How about I hire you?" Their light-hearted banter was cut short when Clara's assistant noticed me standing by the elevator. "Ma'am," she called out. Clara and Julian both turned, their smiles faltering slightly when they saw me. Julian walked over from where he was standing with Clara. "Leo, you're here. I was bored, so Clara was just showing me around her office," he explained before I could even say a word. Clara approached, taking my hand. "Why didn't you text me to let me know you were coming?" "Sorry. I'll remember to do that from now on," I replied. It used to be that I never had to. Clara frowned, looking like she was about to say something, but Julian cut in. "I'm starving," he announced, effectively ending the conversation. Clara glanced at me. "Have you eaten yet? Let's all go get some lunch." She drove, and as soon as we pulled up to the restaurant, Julian hopped out and opened the front passenger door for her. "Go on, get in," he said, a familiar, easy gesture that showed how accustomed they were to this dynamic. Throughout the meal, Julian chattered on, directing most of his conversation at Clara. She listened attentively, occasionally placing a piece of food on my plate as an afterthought. "I want some too," Julian suddenly demanded playfully. "Clara, you're so good to your brother-in-law. I wish I could find a girlfriend as amazing as you." I froze, my chopsticks hovering over my bowl. Clara didn't seem to notice the implication, and just chuckled. "Just eat your food," she said, placing some food onto Julian's plate. Suddenly, I lost my appetite. I put down my chopsticks. "Clara, are you free this afternoon? I need to talk to you about something important." "What is it?" she asked, tilting her head. Then she seemed to remember something. "Oh, I have a board meeting this afternoon." "Okay, we'll talk tonight then." But that evening, Clara informed me that she had to leave for a last-minute business trip that would last a week. What she didn't mention was that she was taking Julian with her. She had booked a flight for that night. It was around 11 o'clock when their plane would have landed. Before going to bed, I idly scrolled through Julian's social media feed. His latest post was a photo of a hotel room window with a stunning view. The caption read, "First day as a personal assistant, traveling with the boss." The location tag was the exact city where Clara had said her business trip was. Reflected in the glass of the window were the faint silhouettes of two people. My mother had already liked the post and left a comment. "Good luck, sweetie." A hot surge of anger coursed through me. I immediately dialed Clara's number. "Leo, it's me, Julian." His voice, slick and smooth, came through the phone. A chill went down my spine. "Where is Clara?" I demanded. "She's in the shower right now. Do you want to leave a message?" His tone was all feigned innocence, but it was like a lit fuse on a firecracker. It wouldn't take much to set me off. "No, put Clara on the phone." "Leo, why are you so wary of me? Clara told me everything about you two," Julian said, pretending to be hurt. "Enough," I snapped, my patience gone. "I am sick and tired of this fake act. Give the phone to Clara now." I couldn't stop myself from shouting. There was a brief silence on the other end, and then Clara's voice came on the line. "Leo, what's wrong?" "Did you take Julian on your business trip?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She paused for a second before explaining. "Julian wanted to come along, and it just so happened that I had this trip scheduled." It was such a pathetic excuse. My temples began to throb. I thought I had reached my limit for anger, but there was always something new to push me further. Clara, not hearing a response, asked cautiously, "Leo, if I asked you to send Julian back home right now, would you—" "What?" Clara clearly didn't understand what I was trying to say. Before I could finish, she interrupted me, her voice suddenly panicked. "Are you going somewhere with Julian?" She must have put the phone down, because I could hear footsteps and a scuffle through the receiver. Julian's small, pitiful voice came through clearly. "Leo must have misunderstood something. I'll just go out and explore on my own." After he said that, I heard Clara shouting his name, her voice growing more distant. A few seconds later, she was back on the phone. "Julian ran out. He doesn't know his way around here and it's late. I need to go find him. We'll talk when I get back." The call ended abruptly. She never called back. Julian's social media, however, became very active again. One day he posted 5 updates from 5 different tourist locations. Every single picture featured Clara. It made me think about my relationship with her. We had been dating for years, yet we only had a handful of regular date spots we frequented. Now, in just a few days, she was willing to go anywhere and everywhere with Julian. The presence of love and the absence of it were painfully clear. The trip was supposed to last a week, but Clara returned after 10 days. During that time, my application for the study abroad program was approved. I was scheduled to leave in about 2 weeks. I had started packing, and I was dragging my last suitcase toward the door when I saw a car pull up. Clara and Julian got out, both of them smiling and chatting, still basking in the afterglow of their trip. When Clara saw me and my luggage, her smile vanished. She rushed over. "Leo, where are you going?" "Back to the university," I said. "I'm studying abroad soon, and there are some things I need to sort out. It's more convenient for me to stay in the dorms for now." Before I could explain further, Julian chimed in, his expression one of innocent concern. "Leo, you're still angry, aren't you? Is that why you're moving out?" Clara seemed to come to the same conclusion. She looked down at me, her tone and expression shifting, losing the warmth she reserved for Julian. "Didn't you know I was coming back today?" The impatience in her voice was unmistakable. I met her gaze. "I didn't know. You never told me." Clara's body went rigid. She probably remembered that our last conversation had ended with her chasing after Julian. She looked uneasy and embarrassed, but she tried to mask it with a stern expression. "Leo, just stop. We can go inside and I'll explain everything, okay?" I gently pushed her hand off my suitcase. "I'm not trying to cause a scene. I really do have things to take care of at the university." Clara didn't look convinced. She just stood there and stared as I left. A few days passed while I handled my affairs at the university. Sam asked me, "Did you tell Clara about the study abroad program yet?" It was only then that I realized I had completely forgotten. But it wasn't too late. I went back to the apartment, but Clara wasn't there. I started packing up the rest of my belongings. Halfway through, Clara walked in. She looked surprised to see me at first, but then her expression relaxed into a smile. I was about to speak, but her face quickly turned cold, and she walked silently into her home office. Was she sulking? I couldn't help but find the situation darkly humorous. The next day I caught Clara just as she was leaving for work. "Clara, I need to talk to you. Can you spare 20 minutes?" She gave me a quick glance, her lips pursed slightly. "I need to talk to you too," she said, checking her watch. "How about I pick you up after work tonight?" "Okay," I agreed. So I waited until evening. In the meantime, I finished packing the last of my things at the apartment. While taking a break, I saw a new post from Julian. He was at a high-end jewelry store and had taken a picture of a brilliant diamond ring. It was stunning and would undoubtedly look incredible on someone's hand. The post was liked by both my mother and Clara. So I gave it a like, too. That evening, Clara came home. "Let's go out for dinner," she announced. And wear that shirt I got you for your birthday. It looks so nice on you." "Is it necessary to be so formal?" I asked, a bit confused. But then I thought, we had been together for years. A proper, civilized breakup seemed appropriate. "Sure," I agreed. As I was getting dressed, I caught a glimpse of Clara's reflection in the mirror. Her eyes were gentle and smiling. Maybe it was just the warm light in the closet, but they seemed to shine with a particular brightness. "You're really something else, Leo," she said, leaning against the door frame. Clara seemed different today. We weren't in a hurry, but instead of taking me directly to a restaurant, she drove us to our old university campus. "Leo, do you remember? We ran into each other right here," she said, pointing to a row of cherry blossom trees that lined the main path. It wasn't the right season for blossoms, but the trees were still full and green. She was talking about the first time we met again in college after our entrance exams. She had asked me, "Why are you here all alone?" I was too embarrassed to admit that my parents were preoccupied with Julian and his own academic struggles. Later, Clara helped me carry my luggage to my dorm room. To thank her, I took her out for a meal. We were in different majors, and our departments were on opposite ends of the campus, but I kept running into her during mealtimes. No one could dislike Clara. She was brilliant, warm, and kind, like a gentle spring breeze. Yet she carried an air of elegance and distance. I never thought she was someone I could be with. Every chance encounter was a mix of happiness and sorrow for me. That is, until Julian left to study abroad. Then, one day, Clara approached me. "Leo, do you think we could be together?" That was the first time I allowed myself to be brave with my feelings. In the end, though, it didn't turn out well. "I remember," I said. "And over there?" Clara was very talkative tonight. Though I was curious about where this was all going, I listened patiently. It was the polite thing to do. She took me all over campus, recounting old memories, until we finally arrived at the entrance to my old department building. "Leo, I used to wait here for you after your classes finished," she said. I thought she was about to launch into another story, but she just stopped there. After our trip down memory lane, Clara took me to an upscale restaurant for dinner. Her mood was visibly brighter. A violinist played softly nearby, and the candlelight flickered, casting a warm glow on our faces. As we walked into the private dining room, I finally sensed that something was off. The room was lavishly decorated, clearly set up for a surprise. Sure enough, halfway through the violin piece, a group of waiters entered carrying enormous bouquets of flowers. Behind them, Clara's friends streamed into the room, surrounding us. Party poppers exploded, and colorful streamers rained down on my head. Then Clara knelt before me. "Leo, will you marry me?" I stood there, completely stunned by this unexpected turn of events. Everyone around us cheered and made jokes about my shocked silence. "He's in shock," they teased. Clara remained on one knee, looking up at me. She seemed tired, but her expression was confident. Encouraged by the crowd, she took my hand, a diamond ring poised to slip onto my finger. Just as the cold metal was about to touch my skin, I instinctively pulled my hand away. A heavy, awkward silence fell over the room. Everyone stared, confused by my reaction. "What's happening? Didn't Leo always want to marry Clara?" "Yeah, what's he doing? Is he saying no?" Clara's confident smile froze on her face. "Leo, you—" I finally collected my thoughts, understanding why Clara had been acting so strangely all day. She had been planning this elaborate proposal. The things she wanted to talk about were all leading up to this. I frowned. "Clara, please stand up. And could you ask your friends to leave? I need to talk to you alone." Clara looked lost, but the others could feel the tension in the room. They exchanged weary glances and slowly filed out, leaving the once festive atmosphere feeling empty and somber. I had probably hurt her with my public rejection. Her gaze was now filled with uncertainty and a hint of fear. "Clara," I began, seizing the opportunity. "I applied for an overseas study program at the academy." When she heard this, she looked momentarily confused. "When?" "About a month ago. I went to your office to tell you, but you were away on that business trip." "How long is the program?" 3 years. After I answered, Clara let out a sigh of relief. "So that's why you're not accepting my proposal, right?" She muttered to herself, 3 years isn't that long. Even if it's long distance, I can make it work." "Clara," I said, cutting her off, "I have no intention of being in a long-distance relationship." Her face registered pure shock. I looked at her, my gaze steady and firm. "We should break up." This decision wasn't made in the heat of the moment. Ever since we started planning our engagement, it felt like every unexpected event was a sign, preventing it from happening. Sometimes things are right in front of you, just within your grasp, and then they suddenly slip away. That just means they were never meant to be yours in the first place, like my parents' love or Clara's undivided affection. By now, I had finally woken up to that reality. While I was moving the last of my boxes out of Clara's apartment, I got a call from Julian. "Mom wants you to come home for dinner tonight," he said. "Oh, and remember to bring Clara." He hung up before I could reply. When I arrived at my parents' house, I rang the doorbell. Julian answered, his face lit up with a cheerful smile. "Clara." His smile vanished the instant he saw that I was alone. "Why are you by yourself? Where's Clara?" "She's not coming," I replied, walking past him. Julian rolled his eyes and shot me a disdainful look before shouting into the house, "Leo's back!" My mother was in the living room and looked up, asking the same question as Julian. This time, Julian answered for me. "Clara didn't come." My mother's face fell with disappointment. I was supposed to be a member of this family. Yet it was clear that, compared to Clara, my presence was not as welcome. At the dinner table, I sat alone on one side, while Julian and my mother chatted happily on the other. Their laughter and conversation filled the room, making my silence all the more pronounced. "By the way, big brother," Julian said suddenly, a mischievous glint in his eye, "I left a bunch of my old photos at Clara's place. Can you get them for me next time you see her?" "You should ask her for them yourself," I replied. My mother glanced at me disapprovingly. "It's not a big deal, Leo. You can just ask her." "I can't," I said flatly, not missing the frustrated look she shot me. "Clara and I broke up." Honestly, if I hadn't felt a final obligation to inform them, I wouldn't have come tonight at all. After I spoke, an awkward silence descended upon the table. A brief, triumphant flicker crossed Julian's eyes. My mother's expression turned uncomfortable. I couldn't quite decipher her feelings, but all she managed to say was a dry, "Why? Why did you break up all of a sudden?" There was no hint of regret in her voice, just a shallow, obligatory pretense of concern. The phoniness of it all churned my stomach. I looked her directly in the eye, my voice steady. "Isn't this what you always wanted? Now that we've broken up, Julian can finally take my place." Her face flushed red, then turned pale. She never expected the usually obedient son to speak to her so sharply. As if her authority had been challenged, she lashed out. "Leo, what do you mean by that? How could you say I wanted this?" That night, I had the biggest argument with my mother of my entire life. She laid bare all her years of intense distaste and disdain for me. "You were never as sweet or as thoughtful as your brother. Without me raising you, do you think you would have the life you have now?" Loved ones always know exactly where to strike to inflict the most pain. "This breakup is clearly your fault. Clara was a wonderful girl. What more could you possibly want? You can't compare to your brother in any way, and now you can't even keep a girlfriend happy. Even though I had anticipated this confrontation, tearing down the fragile facade of peace between us revealed an ugliness that was still shocking. I fought to suppress the ache in my chest, but my eyes began to burn with unshed tears. "You're right," I said, my voice surprisingly calm. "I can't compare to Julian, so from today on, I won't be coming back here. You can act like I never existed." Hiding my sorrow, I stood up to leave. My mother froze, her voice catching in her throat as she saw me rise. "Leo, where will you go?" "I'm moving abroad, and even after I finish my studies, I most likely won't be coming back." During the years Julian was overseas, she always complained about being lonely. I remembered how, when he finally came back, she and my dad had tears in their eyes as they hugged him, saying, "You've been gone for 6 years, leaving us all alone with no company." They were alone. I had come home for every single vacation and holiday. So, what was my company worth? A single phone call from Julian, thousands of miles away, garnered more praise and affection than my constant presence ever did. My mother's face went pale. "Oh, come on. Those are just small things. You can't have held on to them for this long." Small things. Hundreds of tiny cuts and slights built up over more than 2 decades were just small things to her. I never understood why my parents couldn't love me as much as they loved him. I am their firstborn son. Yet I have always felt like I existed solely for Julian's benefit. He was supposed to have the best of everything. They indulged him, forgave his every mistake, and granted his every wish. Even the dance classes I have dedicated my life to were originally something Julian started, and then passed on to me when he lost interest. I have persevered all these years, becoming the top student at my academy, yet they have never attended a single one of my performances. I am their child, too. They know how to love Julian. Why not me? Some thoughts are too painful to dwell on. The more you ponder them, the more they sting. At some point, tears started streaming down my face, but I had said everything I needed to say. I had no intention of ever discussing this with them again. I gathered my things, ready to walk out for the last time. My mother tried to call my name, but the word caught in her throat. Julian moved to comfort her. "Don't worry, Mom. Leo has always been selfish. You know that. I'm here for you." Hearing this, I stopped. I turned back and walked directly up to Julian. He looked up at me, confused. I raised my hand and delivered 2 sharp, solid slaps across his face. He clutched his cheek, stunned. "What the hell, man?" "Julian, if you don't know basic human decency, I don't mind teaching it to you," I said, glaring at him. He opened his mouth to argue, but I cut him off. "I have screenshots of every single thing you've posted online. If you try to deny any of it, I have no problem sharing it all and letting the public decide for themselves. All those years of expensive education completely wasted." Julian's face flushed and then paled. He glared at me but held his tongue. I hadn't always disliked my brother. When we were very young, he used to follow me around, sweetly calling me Big Brother and asking for hugs. I don't know when exactly things started to change. The news of my breakup with Clara spread quickly. Her friends reached out, trying to talk me into reconsidering. I shut them all down. "If you think what happened is no big deal, just forward our chat history to your own girlfriend and see how she feels." They all went silent after that. It seems it doesn't hurt until the knife is pointed at you. 2 days later, it was time for me to leave. Sam came to the airport to see me off. His eyes were red, and while he was reluctant to see me go, he never once tried to stop me. "Take care of yourself over there," he said, his voice thick. "I will," I promised. As we were talking, I saw a familiar black car parked by the curb. The license plate was one I knew well. Sam saw it too and was visibly annoyed when Clara got out of the car and started walking towards us. He rolled his eyes. Clara stopped in front of me. She looked disheveled and exhausted. There were dark circles under her eyes, and her usual vibrant gaze was dull. She asked what time my flight was. 2 in the afternoon. I can take you. No need. The academy arranged a bus. Clara blinked a few times, her eyes welling up. Leo, I'm sorry. After thinking it over for all this time, that was all she could manage to say, her voice trembling. She had said it countless times already. The night I broke up with her, Clara had been desperate to understand why. She guessed at a dozen different reasons. Is it because of the engagement party? Or because I took Julian on that trip? She had asked cautiously. Seeing my silence, she rushed to reassure me. Leo, if that's it, I promise it will never happen again. I looked at her then, and finally asked the question that had been eating away at me for years. Clara, I've always wanted to know, did you only get together with me because of Julian? Otherwise, it was impossible to explain why. The moment he returned, she became so indulgent and singularly focused on him. Her face went pale. She opened her mouth to speak, but she was at a loss for words. In her silence, I found my answer. That's why we're breaking up, I told her. When we were kids, I was Julian's sidekick. When I grew up, I became his substitute. Do you really think I'm that cheap? I'm sorry, she had whispered that day, but her apologies were drowned out by the echo of that slap. She owed me that much. I had always been transparent and honest in our relationship. She was the one who let me down. My time studying abroad went smoothly. The language barrier was challenging at first, but my classmates and instructors were incredibly friendly and kind. I deleted all my old contacts from home, except for Sam. During my first year away, I still heard news about Clara from him. He told me she was constantly posting on social media about a grand public proposal she was planning. No one knew who Leo was. They probably just assumed it was some rich man she was trying to win back. Her posts gained some traction online, with clueless netizens shipping them and even starting daily check-ins. Did Clara propose today? Seriously, who does she think she is? Sam complained. Just creating drama for attention. Doesn't she realize how many young people see this stuff and get the wrong idea? He was extremely disapproving of her behavior. Then someone anonymously revealed the whole truth behind Clara's actions. It turned out that online sleuths were quite skilled. The public sentiment turned against her overnight. What is this? I thought it was a love story, but it's just a user regretting her bad choices. Come on, leave the poor guy alone. Why should he forgive you just because you want him to? You should have thought about that before you treated him like trash. Some people even dug up information about Julian. To this day, my mother is still trying to set up Julian and Clara, one post claimed. When the online mob's anger spilled over onto Julian, my mother created her own social media account to defend him, trying to shift all the blame onto me. By the time Sam relayed all of this to me, months had passed. I learned about everything long after it had happened. The last time Sam mentioned them was in early December. Leo, did you hear about the car accident with Clara and your brother? Through Sam's somber retelling, I found out that my mother's online posts had fanned the flames of public anger. The online harassment directed at my family escalated to the point where they couldn't leave the house. Julian had apparently planned to ask Clara for help, but she had refused him. They were arguing heatedly while driving. That's when it happened. One dead, one injured. Julian died at the scene. Clara lost a leg. After hearing the news, I felt a deep sense of unease that lingered for a long time. 3 months later, I received a phone call from an unknown number. It was from home. Leo, it's Mom. Can you come home and see me? Her voice was old and frail, laced with a pleading tone I had never heard before. I paused for a long moment. "I'm not coming back," I said. "When you're old, I'll send you money for your support." A sound of choked, tearful regret echoed from the other end of the line. I hung up without another word,